So if you would stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much and welcome. We have the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any changes?
You just go back.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have any.
Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll accept that. I'll make the second from the motion.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, now we're on to public comment, and please limit it to 3 minutes. Who would like to go first? Jeff?
Jeff Carey, Welfare. Couple quick things, kind of a repeat. I'm going to give the board and the secretary, or I guess executive director, a copy of that RCW that I've been kind of referencing with regards to parks.
Okay.
So you kind of outlines my, the concerns I have on that issue. And again, I want to see Sweetwater Park stay part of this community as a park. So I'm not against that. It's just that we've got to have, in my opinion, the right mechanism. And I'm not sure that the port is really that right mechanism for all the good intents. And now we see different things like with the kayak park, some of the issues that come to bite us a little bit there. Mm-hmm. Maybe kind of put that all in focus and try to address that. I'm just curious, and I don't need answers right now. It can be for the next meeting, but like in 2022, how much? Dollar-wise, how much vandalism did we have in that park? The kayak park.
We'd have to refer to Larry for the dollar amount.
If we can get a general.
By what value? What do you mean by? What's it worth?
No. Cost. What did the port incur as a loss in trying to fix things?
We'd have to add it up. It's Don's time.
I understand.
It's mostly Don's time.
Okay, but just a ballpark. I don't mean precise. Yeah. I'm just saying in the ballpark so that we, the community, can have an understanding.
That's a couple $1,000s.
Okay.
Maybe a little more.
The other thing is that I saw in the briefing the issue with the Army Corps, with the oyster shed. Yeah. Again, I don't need the answer right now, but I'm curious how much, between grants and the port we put into that, because I remember in the beginning what we thought it might be, and I know it's gone over that, and I'm not here to debate that, but I'm just curious where we are in the grand scheme.
No, I can't hear either.
Oh.
I might have hit it. Okay.
Nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Actually, when somebody's up there, kind of need to point your face towards the laptop, because that's where it's coming into.
Yeah, that's
okay. Talk to the laptop. Talk to the laptop.
Thank you.
Do not say bad words like I might in the past. Yes, I got it. But no, if we could get an idea, as to, what the port's put into, and again, big picture. And that, if it's next meeting, that'd be great, or the following meeting, one of the next 2 meetings, I appreciate it.
Okay, we actually don't have a lot of our own money in that.
Port doesn't.
Yeah,
not
it's
really.
mostly grant money.
Okay. But if you could, appreciate that. And the only other last thing is that I was there when, previous executive directors, and I think you were, one of the 3 commissioners at the time when we did bring in that kayak park into this, into the parks for the port. And I realize it's a hassle, but I think if we're going to, support what we said we were going to do way back when, I think we probably should still keep it in the scheme of things, because it looks. I watched your the video on the meeting that you had with the RCO people, and it looks like it's a lot of hassle to.
It does.
I mean, I agree it costs, but at least the port's not in the business of trying to make a profit. Try to minimize loss, yes, but it's not a business. It's for the greater good of the community. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. Ken?
Good evening, Commissioners. Ken Van Buskirk, Belfair. I have several comments that somewhat mirror Mr. Carey's comments. They regard the Executive Director's Report, supporting documents, and Resolution 2023-001 that you're going to approve this evening. Regarding this Executive Director's Report, I have several questions, and I hope that you Commissioners do as well. The RCO special meeting regarding the kayak park, which I attended, looks like there's two options. You can either surplus the property to another government agency or you can convert it. The conversion process sounds much more involved and more expensive. RCO staff asked if the surplus option had been considered, and Commissioner Scott, you told them no, it had not been. And I would suggest that you consult with Mason County, WSDOT, or WDFW to seek their interest in surplusing the property to them. I had a team meeting with the same RCO staff last week regarding my concerns with the possible conversion of the kayak property for use at Sweetwater, as that's what Mr. Coppola seemed interested in doing. It sounds that the Sweetwater Park is not likely to be funded this cycle. I would suggest again that the property be surplused. Mason County, WSDOT, or WDFW might be interested in that property. And I would like this commission to have an open, transparent, public discussion about the email I obtained today as soon as possible. Mr. Coppola sent you all the commissioners, an email before that RCO meeting on January 23rd. In it, quote, he says, "Our immediate goal here is to figure out how to surplus the kayak park. If we can sell it, we can get ourselves out of debt and have money left over. You all also may want to consider divesting us of Sweetwater Park as well. If the RCO grant for Sweetwater is approved, we will be obligated to own and maintain that park in perpetuity. Is that what we really want?" End quote. I have been following this project for at least 5 years. This is unbelievable. And I wholeheartedly agree with his suggestion to you all, and I hope you have a meeting about it and talk about it in public. Regarding the Army Corps of Engineers synopsis, when was that meeting held with Mr. Coppola and yourself, Judy?
You have 2 seconds.
The engineering firm is budgeted out of money and they want to discuss an amendment to their contract for additional services. I think that synopsis, the discussion about it, should be an open public meeting with all commissioners present. I have a couple other things I'd like to talk about before you approve Resolution 001. Maybe when you get ready to adopt those, I'll make my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Yes, Travis.
Well, I unfortunately didn't get to attend the meeting about the kayak park. I would have liked to. Got a newborn baby. It's tough to do a lot. I actually I helped do a lot of the renovations on that when I worked for Jessfield Construction with the late Jerry Butterfield, and it's I guess I have a hard time seeing the port regress in property. I mean, I don't know what you guys are planning on doing with it, but it seems like we would want to hold on to every piece of property that we have to provide to the public. And that's just my 2 cents on it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Barry?
Barry Betzinger, Allyn, and just a couple of comments on the kayak park. I I just, when I heard that it was going to be a kayak park quite a few years ago, I was thinking, okay, that's cool, but I'm wondering how many people really use it, because we see an awful lot of kayaks down here also. And the fact of the matter is, when the tide is out, that's a long walk through a lot of mud, to get the kayaks in and out. So I'm not sure how effective it is being a kayak park. I was just thinking, it could be used for a roadside, little picnic area. I know we have plenty here, but somebody may want a little more privacy, whatever. I have no strong feelings one way or another about keeping it or surplusing it, but just a couple of points about that. And then the Sweetwater Park, and thinking about that, and we that went to school in the old Allyn Belfair grade school, that whole area there with the water wheel, and of course there was a little store there to begin with, and kind of a diner, and it's kind of nostalgic because the water wheel was operating back then, and it's a historical, I think it's a historical water wheel. I would say that it would be. So to give that up, I think you guys had a great, use for that, planting a few fish and selling worms or whatever, but it was that's just another little park that would really be enjoyable. I think it would be well attended with some of the youth around here, and especially if it had that little fishing area. So, if anything, so I know we've had some problems and comments and things about the Sweetwater Park in the past, but I think it could be a worthwhile adventure. We may not, see it happen for another year or so, but let's see what happens. Okay.
Thank you, Barry.
You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, anybody? No? Okay,
Can I make a comment about the kayak park?
sure.
The whole reason that we looked at surplusing it has to do with the ongoing maintenance that we're dealing with for vandalism. And the fact that at one time we did try, as you recall, to convert it to a lower cost wedding venue than here. And we're going to build a little gazebo, 196 square feet, so it didn't need a building permit because you have to be over 200. And on the last day of his employment with the county, the building inspector came and red tagged it and said we were going to have to get a shoreline permit and a whole bunch of other stuff, and all of the permits were going to add up to somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 with no guarantee of getting the permit. And then the actual budget for the gazebo and everything to make it a really nice little venue was $3,000. So
Thank you. That explains it for me.
which is, and as you pointed out, it's hard. Nobody launches kayaks there. No, occasionally somebody will stop and eat lunch there or something.
Yeah.
But it's rare that we find anybody there. We have had some homeless people there. The little bathroom's been broken into. We've replaced the toilet. We had to put a steel door on the building because the door kept getting kicked in. And, it just seems like, yeah, it's a nice piece of waterfront to use for something, but nobody's using it for anything, and we're dealing with the vandalism part of it.
I understand.
And when we did try to do something with it, we got shot down for doing that. So,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
so I hope that explains some
Yeah.
of it to everybody.
Okay, no other public comment?
Phil.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
hi,
Phil.
Phil. Can you hear me?
Thank you, yes. Thank you, Phil. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit late to the meeting. And I heard some testimony about the kayak Park in Sweetwater, so I thought I'd jump in. Yeah, I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other, on the kayak park. I mean, I do agree it doesn't make sense to launch a kayak there, at all. But I mean, I have seen people use, there, enjoying the scenery. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have a restroom. You don't have to have much there for people to enjoy it. And then, it's really a far off thought, but it'd be nice someday to have like instead of a river walk, it'd be like a bay walk where you walk along the shoreline. I mean, something that's probably never going to happen, but that's a piece of port property, or it's a piece of public property that could, that could be used someday. And and I do support the project at Sweetwater. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Phil. Anybody else? Okay, moving on, we have consent agenda items. We have the approval of the regular meeting minutes of January 4th. Do I hear a motion? Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of January 4th.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, so moved. Okay, action items, who would like to read those?
I'll go ahead and read them. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for $36,034.37, $111.72, $23,285.74, and the $7,973.48, and approve the digital signatures.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So moved. Okay, moving on. Commissioner.
I remembered the digital signatures this time.
Yeah, that's great. Yay. Commissioners' reports. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, Ted.
Attended the general meeting, attended PR, TPO. I'm getting better at that, by the way. Meeting here at Friday, meeting the WAPA executive director, and then attended the Kitsap All Ports, and thank them for putting on that training. That was very nice. So.
Yeah, that was great. Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner John, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So I attended the regular meeting on the 4th of January, and just wanted to make a note that I attended the Kitsap County group of ports there at their meeting just recently as well, and I enjoyed that very much. That's it.
Yeah, it was great. I did the January 4th meeting, the regular port meeting, January 10th, the Sergeant Oyster House meeting with the North Bay Historical Society, January 12th, Economic Development Council meeting, and January 27th, of course, was the meet and greet for Eric Fitch, the Washington Public Ports Association new executive director. I was well attended, by the way, and thank you, it was great. Also met with the geoengineer, Sean, about the Oyster House, of which, we will try to meet with the North Bay Historical Society as well about what we're going to do. And then the January 30th Kitsap All Ports meeting, it was via Zoom. For me, it was great because it was an open public meeting at class. And then February 2nd, it was Port Day at Olympia, so I went down there and I just wanted to highlight a couple of bills that may affect the port or ports. And one is Washington Public Ports continues to work to support HB 1231 and Senate Bill 5229. It's the legislation that would include site readiness as an eligible use for curb planning grants, and also temporarily eliminate the cap on how much the board can award to planning grants. And we haven't had any curb things, but it could be later down the road. And tourism, as you know, tourism is pretty important around here, so the legislation is going to promote Washington State tourism. And it's now been heard on both the chambers with Washington Public Ports and the member ports showing up to express support. I have to say, previous years there was only 3 million. They're asking now for 26 million for tourism. As you know, that's kind of the bread and butter around here for this area. That's it for me. Okay, Travis. Security Officers Report.
Okay, Travis Merrill, Port of Allyn Security. Pretty quiet all month, but we did get some more long-term moorers down on the North Shore. Of course, at the end of last month, we had the giant king tide storm that did some damage, and that damage is still there, but of course, we're just waiting until the last of the stormy weather goes away before we, I think, mull over our options there for repair. And the North Shore is, there's a gated closure now to keep the public off the dock. It's, of course, more of a barrier than a stoppage of people actually traveling through there. So, but, you know, we've got something there. Other than that, nobody's given me any guff, so
Yay.
That's a good month. And that's what I got.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
I don't think so.
Yeah, are we having any comments with some of the oyster?
So the oysters come down, they've been down like 3 times this month.
Okay.
And they literally fill up the boat ramp parking. And they stay away from Barry's side. So I haven't had any, I haven't experienced anything where there's been a problem. They haven't come and talked to me either. I think they have a key to the bathrooms that their manager has, so that they have access there. But I lock them at night anyway, just because I just want to be sure. I know we did have the front bathroom. There was some damage to the toilet. It wasn't working properly, so we switched to the back bathrooms. But as far as I can see, we're pretty solid.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Larry, Executive Director's Report.
All right, financial issues. Revenues continue to perform as expected this time of year in this economy. Cash flow is very tight. We'll be fine and can begin paying back whatever we borrow after we get the April tax receipts. As you can see from the general fund vouchers, we've cut expenses and are deferring everything that we can, but this month we had a significant amount of one-time kind of cost. Art Anderson and Associates, $3,700 for the Oyster House, which is reimbursable from a grant. $94.59, that's our quarterly payment to Honduras. We have one more of those this year. I think we have 2 more, I'm sorry. And then we had one other one here, I'm looking for it here. Oh, the State Auditor's Office, $2,260, and we had to pay our WPPA dues, which were $1,775. These are like, one-time expenses. So, anyway, but if you look at the stuff that's our normal stuff, you can see we're not spending much money at all. Water system issues, we're not able to come to an agreement with Jeff and Debbie on the final terms of the purchase and sale agreement, and have missed the deadline to submit the loan to purchase their system. Jeff and I have had some preliminary discussions on an alternative way to make this happen, but nothing's solidified yet.
We're a little busy.
We've looked at the feasibility of locating both the new well and the booster pump on the back side of the water storage tank, but it's going to require building an ecology block wall and a fair amount of dirt work, which will increase the cost as well as make it somewhat difficult to get a drilling rig in there. However, there is an option of acquiring some adjacent property which could be funded by the grant. We have a couple of options for that which we're exploring. In the meantime, we still need to settle on a final site one way or the other, and get a cultural resources survey completed before we can move forward with the grant paperwork. That cost is reimbursable by the grant, but this will be at least another month before we can get someone out there to do it. Aspect and Northwest Water have also finalized everything to put the project out to bid, which we will do once the state and tribe sign off on everything, which includes the cultural resources survey. That's like the first thing that has to get done. Until then, we're in a holding pattern. Damaged dock issues. As you're all aware, our Hood Canal Marina dock was severely damaged during the king tides the week between Christmas and New Year's. Our insurer, Endurus, hired a consultant marine surveyor to assess the damage. I met with him and he inspected the dock, and I think he's called me at least a dozen times since then. But at this point we have 2 bids to repair the dock, and we'll select one once we coordinate with Endurus about who can do the work the quickest. That should happen this week. Our deductible is $1,000. In the meantime, we've closed off the dock with the lock gate, as Travis said, and have given keys to the boat owners moored there. While the damage is severe, it isn't as bad as we first anticipated, but we are going to have to make some improvements once the repairs are complete, including making the pilings taller so we'd not have the same issue with king tides floating the dock higher than the top of the pilings. Steel pilings can just have an extension welded on to the top of the existing piling. The wooded ones can be sleeved with either steel or fiberglass and filled with a composite material. While this will cost some money, it won't be extraordinarily expensive. The January 24th king tide didn't do any additional damage, so we'll move forward with the repairs as soon as possible. Annual resolutions. On your agenda tonight are 5 housekeeping resolutions. These are the annual appointments we have to make for our meeting rules, who will be appointed auditor, and who our attorney will be. There's also one for who will accept claims against us, which is usually the attorney as well. Leanne has been appointed auditor every year for a number of years, so unless you all want someone else, that shouldn't be an issue. Same goes for the meeting rules. The resolution language came from boilerplate documents that many other courts use and that we've used previously. The only issue that really requires more than a cursory level of discussion is who will be our attorney. You all had directed me some time ago to explore finding us a new attorney. We've narrowed it down to 3. Our current attorney, Joe Brogan of Foster Garvey. His rate is $5.65 per hour. Frank Schmelik of Schmelik, Sick and Davis. His rate is $3.40 per hour. Rich Wooster of Cram and Wooster. His rate is $400 per hour. There are 3 versions of the same resolution, each with a different name for attorney and claims agent. We only need to adopt one each. All of you are familiar with Joe Brogan, our current attorney, and Frank Schmelik, who represents WPPA and more than 30 other ports. Ted suggested Rich Wooster, who he worked with previously. I met with him in November and was convinced he can be an effective advocate for us if you all elect to choose him. 5th resolution is for approving an excise tax for water usage. This came from the state auditor, and when it comes to that, I'm going to have Leanne explain it because she's the one who dealt with it. Special meeting, non-meeting. On January 23rd, a meeting between port staff and RCO took place. This was intended as an informational meeting specifically requested by port staff for port staff. However, to err on the side of caution and in order to potentially comply with the Open Public Meetings Act, this meeting was publicly noticed as a special meeting due to the fact more than one of you port commissioners had expressed interest in possibly attending. Commissioner Scott is the only commissioner who actually did attend the meeting. According to the Open Public Meetings Act, no special meeting occurred since there was not a quorum of the commissioners present and no minutes are required. Mr. Van Busker questioned this, which is why this is being mentioned. Present at the meeting were Commissioner Judy Scott, myself, Leanne from the port, Ashley Ramble, Myra Barker, and Andrea Hood of RCO, and Mr. Van Busker. The discussion centered on what was required for the port to surplus the kayak park in Allyn. RCO staff laid out the parameters and answered the questions of port staff and Commissioner Scott. No decisions were made, no action was taken. Allyn Pier Replacement Project. As you know, we have a major problem with the pier here in Allyn. During one of the king tides, one of the pilings broke loose from the alcove on the pier and floated away. The entire alcove section is sagging, so I had Don close that section off to the public until we can find a solution to getting another piling. We do have a couple of options. One is to replace the entire pier with a completely new structure. The other is to sleeve the existing pilings with concrete or steel, which effectively gets the creosote out of the water. We're looking at the feasibility and useful life of both versus cost. In the meantime, Holly, our lobbyist, has put together a letter to the legislature that includes logos from a dozen local supporters for the project. We're asking the state legislature for $500,000, excuse me, for planning and design. I have an engineer's estimate of slightly over $400,000, which will undoubtedly increase by the time we're ready to move forward. A copy of the letter is in your meeting packet. Security camera issues. We filed in small claims court in Kitsap County for the maximum $10,000 we're allowed, which covers the $72,7186 difference between the $18,974.07 we advanced for the purchase of the equipment and what was actually installed according to the bid. We're scheduled for trial March 1 at 1 p.m. in Port Orchard. Strategic Planning Initiative. When I first came here almost 8 years ago, we had no strategic plan. We hired a facilitator, convened a Saturday retreat to come up with one. Except for the Oyster House, we've achieved all the goals we set back then. If we're to set a direction for the next 5 years or so, we should all sit down with the facilitator and discuss where we want to go and how to get there. Commissioner Scott was the only commissioner involved in the original process, so this is an opportunity to look ahead and plan for the future. However, I think it may be a good idea to hold off on this until after I retire and the new executive director is on board so he or she can have input into the process as well. Sign update, no update on this. No one's had time between the holidays and the weather to work on it. But with spring right around the corner, hopefully we can get a break in the weather to do it. Kayak park, as directed, we've inquired about what our options are for surplusing the kayak park property. We had a Teams meeting on January 23rd with RCO that gave us the answers. What it boils down to is we can create another park at our own expense or replace the kayak park before we can surplus it. We have some ideas on this and are exploring the feasibility. We're also keeping RCO in the loop as well. I'll report more on this as we move forward. Old business, Oyster House. Been thrown a major curveball on this project. Now going into a lot of minutia, the bottom line is our Army Corps permit may be invalid and a new one required. This will mean beginning the entire process all over again and complying with new regulations and mitigation rules put in place since our last permit was approved. While our current engineer consultant hasn't tracked down all the paperwork involved in this yet, long story short, it appears our former consultant for this project may have neglected to respond to something from the Army Corps he was sent in 2017, and they canceled the permit after not getting any response. Judy and I met with the engineer on January 27th, asked him to write a synopsis of the situation and what our options are going forward. I included these in your meeting packet. He's still researching options and we may be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but it's too soon to tell. I'll keep you updated. Sweetwater Park, nothing new to report. The entire property will remain closed to the public until the tree situation is completely resolved, which will happen when the park is developed and be paid for out of that grant. Trail cameras are installed and are being monitored. Kitsap All Ports meeting, the last meeting was January 30th, and Tim Shermetzler from Schmelik, Sitkin and Davis gave us an overview of the changes to both the Public Records Act and the Open Public Meetings Act, answered questions from the audience. I specifically asked about the January 23rd RCO meeting, confirmed our original belief since there was no quorum of commissioners. Officially, there was no special meeting, in spite of us having publicly noticed it, and therefore no minutes were required. I was proud that all of our commissioners and Leanne attended this meeting, and I took the minutes for that meeting. The next meeting is set for April 24th.
Okay.
That's my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That was a lot. So, let's go ahead. Now, we have two items here. Presentation by Brad Pomeroy. Ah, yay.
I'm here.
Okay. Would you like to go ahead and share your presentation with us this
Sure, I
evening?
don't really have a presentation to share, but I just got some points to talk to. So you
Great.
want to stand up here?
Yes, at the podium, if you
Which way
would,
am I
please.
facing?
So they can hear you, speak towards the laptop.
Okay, all right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Brad Pomeroy. I'm a facilitator, for the Case Inlet Fisheries Task Force. So I'll be brief. How many of you are familiar with the task force? We're relatively new. We are supported by, the task force is supported by the Port of Allyn and the Port of Grapeview. We have a commissioner from each on the task force, excuse me. So Ted Jackson represents the Port of Allyn. Art Whitson represents the Port of Grapeview. I also see Phil Wolf on the call here. Phil Wolf is on the task force as well. And we have 7 other members from all around Case Inlet. So what our goal is to restore the salmon populations back here to Case Inlet. So for those of you that have been here for a while, do you remember what the fishing was like back in the late 1990s, early 2003? Healthy runs of salmon. That was due to the Coulter Creek hatchery right at the north end of Case Inlet here. So they were rearing 2 million fish a year and releasing 1 million Chinook from that hatchery. So it was those returning fish that made the fishing so great here. So what we are doing now is looking at options to restore the fish populations here in and around Case Inlet. So if you recall, Governor Inslee recently put forward a lot of money, I think in the magnitude of $1 billion, to increase salmon populations, and that's primarily to support the southern resident killer whales. So we know that there's money available, and we know that Coulter Creek, if I don't know those of you who've driven by there recently, it's up and running now, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife has recently put money into it. So they've replaced all the fish netting. I believe they've resurfaced the ponds. So we know they intend to do something with that hatchery in the future, but they're continuing to raise fish at that hatchery. And Ted or Phil, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but they're raising 2 million fish a year each spring in that hatchery. Then they are trucked down to Tonguewater, where they're put in net pens on the Deschutes River down in Olympia, acclimated to that area, released, and that's where they return, right? So we're not getting that run of Chinook salmon coming back this direction. And so when we think about what we're trying to do is either work with the Department of Fish and Wildlife to understand what their plans are for that hatchery, ideally encourage them to begin releasing fish there again, or looking at other alternatives, including net pens. Not fish farms, not raising fish to maturity. So you've heard all the downsides, the environmental impacts of that, but simply rearing fish for 6 months and then releasing them from net pens. They've recently installed net pens over by Squaxin Island, over by Point Defiance. So they're becoming more common throughout all of Puget Sound as a way to rear fish and release fish. So what we're involved in today, the task force is involved in today, is one, we're working on building a relationship with the Squaxin Island tribe. We have to have their partnership, really. That's very important for us to even get an ear with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And so far that relationship's gone very well. So we've had several meetings with them. The Squaxin Island tribe is supportive of helping us look at alternatives. And ideally, when we go to meet with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we'd like to say that we have the Squaxin Island tribe as a partner of ours. We are planning on attending a Department of Fish and Wildlife meeting within the next 2 or 3 months. That's with the commissioners. We want to let them know who we are and what we would like to see happen in Case Inlet, whether that's net pens, whether that's some future for Coulter Creek, but we want to get in front of them and at least let our intentions be known. We are reaching out to other organizations around the area that are like-minded around Puget Sound, that are also looking at improving, whether it's habitat or salmon populations, to kind of build a coalition with them. There's strength in numbers. So when we're, again, as we're talking with agencies like the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we want to be able to say that, you know, we have the Port of Allyn, we have the Port of Grapeview, we're partners with the Squaxin Island Tribe, and we have these 3 or 4 other groups that are also partners with us. So, Ted, anything to add in terms of, you know, kind of where we've been and where we're going?
No, I think we have a few emails to go about our next field trips.
Right.
And Phil Wolf and I have discussed a couple of emails. I would like to go down to the Tumwater Hatchery on the Deschutes, and then Phil's working on getting us a tour of the fish tagging to kind of understand. And I want to invite all the commissioners, and I know that's been extended to the Port of Grapeview. If it works in your schedule, some of that stuff's pretty interesting. But I'd just like to add that since, what was it, 99, when the fish runs start to die off here?
They stopped releasing fish there in 2003.
2003?
Right.
And we got a 4-year cycle. So we were shortchanged in Case Inlet. And so the businesses love to have the fishermen down here, and the streets would be lined with fishermen. So the banks would be. So I just think it's time to bring awareness that this part of Puget Sound has kind of been shortchanged on salmon release.
I would agree, and think of this, that we're at the very end of Puget Sound, right? Any fish that we release from here, guess what? Every community, all the way up through the San Juans, right up to Alaska, those fish travel that entire Great Salmon Highway. So by investing in releasing fish here, you're benefiting the communities, tribes, killer whales throughout that entire Puget Sound area. So we think it makes a lot of sense to invest here. So, okay. Thank
Any
you.
questions from the?
Larry?
Yeah, I have a question about the net pen. It was my understanding that the state is shutting down net pen.
Yeah, so that's a really important point. There's salmon farming. That's where you're keeping salmon, you're raising them until maturity. And there's a lot of environmental impacts with that, because you have a dense population of salmon with food and excrement and everything going to the bottom and basically contaminating the ground underneath those pens. What we're talking about is raising salmon fry or smolts for 5 to 6 months until they're large enough to release, and then that net pen isn't used for the rest of the year. So we're not raising, you know, farm-sized fish, right, to harvest. We're talking about raising smolts, letting them go, and the net pen's not used until the next cycle.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, the next on the agenda was Pat McCullough about the North Shore Trail System, but I don't see him here.
Would you like me to say why he was on the agenda?
Yeah.
So I was at a community meeting, and some folks talked about why we're not doing the North Shore Trail System. And Pat McCullough, who's an engineer, had developed, he also engineered the Discovery Trail up north. But Pat already has a design for that trail system to run basically from Belfair State Park over to Allyn. So I approached Pat and asked him to speak. We probably just got our dates crossed, but so that was the reason why I invited Pat out here, to take a look at that again. I also reached out because one of the biggest things is the trail systems in a lot of communities are being cut down or not being used enough because of lack of law enforcement or firefighters. So I reached out to a couple of communities that I work with and got some really good ideas about how they're maintaining and enforcing the activity that occurs on their trails. So when Pat comes, I'll bring that up. So
That's great. Thank you, Ted. Okay, next is the appointment of the representative of the PRTPO, Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization. And so, do you need a motion for that? I think we could just appoint you, right? Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay. John, would you like to make a motion to appoint Ted Jackson as our representative for the I think you're muted.
Yeah, I said my motion.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll make a motion that Commissioner Ted Jackson be represented for PRPTO on potential action.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. There you go, Ted. Thank you for
Thank
doing that.
No, it's very
It's,
interesting. Yeah, very.
I know, it's really critical too. It's really important to our communities.
Yeah, and their Black has resigned.
I
She did?
did not hear that.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a huge loss for our communities.
I don't know anything more about it other than I got an email saying she was leaving.
Wow, Farrah Black, she's the
Yeah, she was
coordinator
awesome.
for the Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization, and she is stellar. She knows everything inside and out transportation-wise, grants, how to navigate through everything. That's a loss.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next is the approval of Resolution 2023-001, which is the rules governing transaction of business. We could read all that if you want. That's kind of lengthy. Well, it's probably it's 6 pages. I've read through it. Stuff that we have already, I don't think we've made any changes from last year. Have we?
We changed the order of the commissioners at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I guess you would. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss about this?
No, I've read through it. I'm good with it.
Ted?
I don't have anything else, no.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-001.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Keep it brief, Ken, if you want to say a comment.
I would, before you approve that resolution, Article 5, meeting rules, does not comply with RCW 4230-080 regarding special meetings. The presiding officer or a majority of members can ask for a special meeting, not any member. And what it currently says is any member.
I'm trying to find where you're at.
Yeah,
It's Article 5, meeting rules on special minutes. And who can
Special
call-
meetings.
Excuse me, special meeting, and who can call them. It's a majority of the members, not any member.
That's what was in the boilerplate that we got, but I can check that, and if that is correct, we can change that.
It's RCW 4230-080.
Be the first question for our new attorney.
Okay.
I always thought that the chairperson could call or
Any
two commissioners.
No, it's a majority.
Yeah, well, that'd
Well,
be two commissioners for this body.
Yeah, I'll check on it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we can approve it with that potential change.
Yes.
And just go back over it, do a grammatical check under chairperson, and just clean that up. But I will make a motion with that change that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Ms. Van Buskirk, and see if that needs to be in there. With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve it. If it doesn't need to be in there, then we'll keep it as it is.
Is that acceptable?
Yes,
Okay.
I second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So moved. Okay, next is the approval of Resolution 2023-002, which is the appointment of the port attorney, and that's where we need to discuss who do you want to be the port attorney. Commissioners, do you have comments?
Yeah, I just had one question. But I had my notes with me at one of our spring meetings as far as the office. Frank's office is which one of these? So I know.
Frank, it's Schmelik, Sitkin, and Davis is what is the one that Frank Schmelik is on.
Okay.
Ted?
Two things. One, we need to lower our attorney fees. But we also need a good product to come out of the attorneys. And working with Frank now for 5 years and his crew, I think they're very good. I'm biased towards Rich Wooster. I've known him for 34 years and watched him in court numerous times. So Rich is just right across there in Tacoma. He lives right here in Case Inlet. But whatever direction we want to go, Frank Schmelik knows the ports. He created his law firm based out of ports. Now with Zoom, it's not necessary to have an attorney present at a meeting. So that's my 2 cents. I think we have to do something. The only thing I don't like, and maybe this is 3 things, is that Joe Brogan's had a history with us. He kind of knows where we're at, what's pending, what we're trying to do, and whether or not another law firm could pick it up as quickly as we had hoped. So,
You know, I've talked to Joe, not very much in the last several months, as trying to minimize our legal bills. But, and I like Joe personally. I get along with him really well, and he and I pretty much think alike. But I like Frank as well, and between Frank and Tim Schermetzler, and the difference in the rates, you know, I think that would be a better choice for us. You know, they know port stuff. Frank, when we had the issue about whether we're in the water business legally or not, it was Frank that made the presentation for us, not Joe. So, you know, I don't get to vote, but if I did, I'd be voting for Frank.
John?
Yeah, so I've been in the camp that I wanted to bring, or I would have liked, if I'd been able to convince the rest of the commissioners to have Frank in here quite a long time ago. But that being said, so that's where I'm at. With no further discussion, his rates are less expensive. He's an expert in courts. He understands them, small and large, and got a lot of experience, and he's grooming up some younger people in that law office, so we've got something else to fall back on.
Well, I'm for Frank. When I talked to him at the small ports, you know, I told him that we were interested, and he said he would work for us because he liked us. So, and plus rates again, we have to be mindful of what we're spending. He does know his business. I would go with Frank myself personally.
Well, if I can, with no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Schmelik from Davis, which is Frank's office, resolution 2023-002.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay, it's Schmelik, Sitkin, and Davis. Or now they're trying to rebrand, it's SCD. CSD. Sorry. There we go.
They shortened that up for me. No. Okay.
Yeah, but what's Schermetzler gonna do? That's about right.
Yeah, he'll get on there eventually, I'm sure. Okay, next one is the 2023-003, which is the appointment of agent to receive claims, of which that is the same, probably the same firm, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So do we need any discussion on that, or can we go ahead and approve that
Just
one?
need to make a motion.
Okay,
No discussion here.
Ted?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-003.
Okay, do I hear?
Let me make sure. Oh, that's the wrong one. That was the other attorney.
So this resolution we're passing, if I understand it correctly, I'll second it for the CSD law firm, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'll make that motion. I'll second that motion. Excuse me.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So moved. Okay, looking through all these, we had several documents, so thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Resolution 2023-004, appointment of Leanne Dennis as our port auditor.
Yep.
I'm certainly good with that.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and just make that motion, since this is something we revisit.
Okay.
And she's gonna be with us for decades and decades to come. Resolution number 2023-004, I make a motion to approve that.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
So moved. Hey, welcome, Leanne. Okay. The approval of the Resolution 2023-005, that is the approval of the excise tax added for water usage, and it's like, Leanne, I think you are up to explain that to everybody. You're muted? You're muted?
Mute.
Thank you, now we
Okay.
can hear you.
All right. No, so I've got to call into the state excise tax specialist, and she's checking into it. They think it's 8.5%, same as sales tax, but I don't know the details yet, but we do need to be charging that. So,
Do you want to table that, or is time of the essence?
Well, I would like to go as far as to make a motion to approve that when she establishes exactly, because we got to do, and
Yeah.
we have to
and
do
the
it.
auditor's in the office, so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
So if they say we have to do it, I'd like to make a motion that we approve that we do it. If they
Okay.
say we don't have to, then we'll just tear this up and call it good.
Well, I'm,
We do, I just don't have a rate, so,
Okay,
yeah.
whatever it is. All
Good.
right.
Yeah, I don't have that,
Approved at 2023-005.
okay.
yeah, I don't have that resolution in front of me. I'm going through,
Should
Well,
have.
I don't actually have the resolution in front of me,
I'm
but I've
looking
got
too.
the agenda, the approval of
I see
excise
it.
tax.
I see it on the
As
agenda.
it's worded there, I'm just saying it's a general motion that if whatever that excise tax is, that resolution, I want to approve it so that we don't like put it off anymore. If she finds out tomorrow or next week, whatever.
Do you need me to send you that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, both, all of
yeah.
us, I think. Go ahead, Jeff, you had a question?
Some background data,
Mm-hmm,
being also a water purveyor.
mm-hmm,
The excise tax, at least on nonprofits and for-profits, kicks in at a certain amount of revenue, is where that comes in. I would think it'd be more like close to what the PUD's number is, which is 2 point something percent. I
Okay.
can't remember the exact number. I would just do it proper and just, if I was sitting in your seat, just wait till you get the documents and then record it. Because the worst case is you come back and, address it in the next bill for the next parties, starting like the beginning of this year, putting the excise tax in the rates. But it kicks off, and I just can't remember the number, but I remember reading about it because I was concerned whether I needed to be charging it or not, and I do not yet at the revenues I have. But there is a threshold where Department of Revenue kicks in that you would be charging the excise tax.
okay, thank you for that
Well,
input.
and so it sounds like actually that we probably should table it then. Thank you, Jeff, because it should be in the resolution stating what that level of revenue should be, and whereas if we exceed that, then we'll pay the excise tax, as opposed to saying we're going to pay it.
It is
So-
based on revenue, yes.
Like whatever.
He's absolutely right. It's based on revenue, so, and that's what they're looking into, but we're checking it out right now, so yeah. I would be happy to table it, so.
Okay.
I make a motion. I'll
Rescind it?
I'll pull back my motion and make a motion that we table it for that reason. So
Okay.
it's a little clearer.
We don't need a motion for that, we'll just table it. Yes, Jeff, go ahead.
And the revenues you're counting are not connection fees.
Correct.
They're all, that's what I'm saying, when you're trying to figure out where you are, it's not the connection fees, it's only the fees you're charging for.
For usage,
Yes.
Right.
yes.
Okay, that way I can include, once we know what the number is, I can redo the resolution and put the number in it.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll table that, that's great.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Barry, yes.
Just a question. If it's based on revenue that you all bring in for the water bills and things like that, does the state then has a law that you have to charge an excise tax on that?
That's
And
what,
if it does, Where does it go? Does it go just to the Department of Revenue, like it's a tax that you're making so much money?
Yes.
I think it
Yes,
does.
the state has this great big black hole where
State.
money goes.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
Goes to the
like
state.
it.
It's in the RCWs in the wax.
great, thank you. Okay. I think that it concludes our business items. Anything for the good of the order? We're silent? Okay, let's adjourn. Woohoo! Oh. Anything for the good of the order, one more time. Commissioner? Oh, one other thing, the letter for support.
Yeah.
The Allyn doc, I read it. It looks nice. And so can I disseminate that when I go down?
You bet.
To the legislatures on Thursday?
You
So,
bet.
Oh, you're going down Thursday too, huh? Good.
Yeah, I'm gonna testify on the bill about changing the Public Records Act. There's some stuff in it that, I think it could be changed and be more positive about. And when it comes up for hearing, I'm gonna testify.
Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you very much for your update on
Oh, my
us.
pleasure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and welcome too. I forgot your names already, I'm really bad. Amy and, is that right? You two?
Oh,
You
two?
two?
That was Gina and Alan.
Gina and Alan, I'm sorry, well, I knew there was an A in
Easy to
there.
remember Alan.
Thank you for being here, appreciate it. Okay, anything else? I think, do we need a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you, folks, appreciate it.